Coming up tonight on Mississippi Roads, we've traveled to the town of Mize in Smith County for the annual Watermelon Festival. A little bit later, we're going to visit a house called Prospect Hill in Jefferson County and find out a little bit about its very interesting history. And speaking of discoveries, we'll find out what a Masonic Moon Lodge is as we visit one of their annual traditions. Plus, a beautiful Hindu temple tucked away in Brandon. And we'll learn about how a small farm in Greenwood is supplying local restaurants with fresh eggs. All that's coming up. Stay with us.
Support for the arts segment of Mississippi Roads comes from the Mississippi Arts Commission, whose mission is to be a catalyst for the arts and creativity in Mississippi. Information available at www.arts.ms.gov.
Mississippi Roads is made possible in part by the generous support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Down Mississippi Road. Mississippi Road.
Mize in Smith County is a town of less than 300 people. And the folks who live here say it's pretty quiet most of the time. Good place to get some rest. Enjoy the finer points of living, away from all the hustle of the big city. But for 2 days every year, the streets grow crowded as fans of the Mississippi Watermelon Festival flock to Mize to take part in the fun and the festivities. The festival is sponsored by the Volunteer Fire Department. It got its start in the late 1970s. It's been going strong ever since. And even though the town is home to a couple of hundred people, thousands show up from across the state to take part in the festivities and the contest. There's a little bit of everything here. Live entertainment, food, and even a car show. And we'll get back to some of those events in just a minute. But right now, let's take a drive over to Prospect Hill and learn about a special home with a unique history. If William Faulkner and Tennessee Williams had collaborated, I don't think they could have come up with a more complex or sordid plot than the events that actually happened at Prospect Hill Plantation. There's family intrigue and political intrigue, and even the deterioration of later generations, the kinds of angst that Faulkner made his bread and butter on. And while you're at it, throw in John Grisham, since the case went all the way to the Mississippi Supreme Court. Now, where to start this story is the problem. Maybe the best place is to jump in today, then sort of work backward and forward from here. Usually we try to do stories on Mississippi roads that are evergreens, meaning the stories will more or less remain relevant over a long period of time. But with Prospect Hill, this house, or what's left of it, will not look like this a year from now being the summer of 2012. Either the house will have completely succumbed to the elements and become a pile of rubble, or better, the best laid plans of the Archaeological Conservancy will have come to pass, and someone with the wherewithal and the desire to do so will have started restoring it to what it looked like back in 1854, when it was first built to replace the original house that was burned in the slave uprising designed to eliminate the grandson of... Oh, wait a minute. I'm jumping ahead. Jessica Crawford is the Southeast Regional Director for the Archaeological Conservancy. And although Prospect Hill Plantation is primarily an architectural treasure, the Archaeological Conservancy didn't pass up the chance to acquire the property when it came on the market for several reasons.
We saw Prospect Hill as an opportunity to preserve a site that has a great story to it, has really interesting history. It's unlike any other plantation in this region. And also we're hoping that we can save the house as well, or find someone to save the house. We're set up to take care of archaeology. We manage land and what's beneath the land, and we try to stay clear of structures because they require a lot more money and maintenance and things like that. But in this case, we decided to see if we could take on Prospect Hill and do just a little bit of patching up while we looked for someone who would purchase the home from us while we retain a protective easement.
Protective easement there means the right to dig in the backyard at will. Now, if I had the money, I'd buy it and to save the house and then just go out and see what they dug up every summer session that they brought out students to excavate. But relics and possible dig sites are evident around the plantation. What is really intriguing is the story of the place that Jessica referred to. It centers around the first owner of Prospect Hill, Isaac Ross.
He's well known because when he made out his will, he became a member of the American Colonization Society. And this was a group of abolitionists, planters, who for differing reasons felt like slaves should be freed and sent to Africa. And a lot of times people say sent back to Africa, but in pretty much every case, these were American slaves, slaves who had never been to Africa, who were born here. And Isaac Ross decided to do the same thing upon his death. So he left instructions in his will that Prospect Hill would be sold, and the proceeds from the sale of the plantation would be used to send those of his slaves who chose to go to the colony in Liberia. His grandson fought that. His grandson was an executor, and he fought the will. He did not want to lose his inheritance, and he fought it for about 9 years. And the slaves on the plantation knew what was going on, and there are several different versions of the story and how it happened, but supposedly the slaves were told by Zebulon Butler, a local abolitionist and Presbyterian minister, that if they would get rid of Isaac Ross Wade, who was the grandson of Isaac Ross, then they would be able to be freed and they could go to the colony in Liberia. And so supposedly one night in 1845, I think it was April 15th, a group of slaves got together and set the original house at Prospect Hill on fire in an attempt to kill Isaac Ross Wade. Isaac Ross Wade did not perish in the fire. No one did except a 6-year-old girl named Martha Richardson. She was a niece of Isaac Ross Wade, a great-granddaughter of Captain Isaac Ross. So she died in the fire, and she's buried back in the family cemetery. And according to family legend, some neighbors and overseers got together and found the slaves they believed were responsible for the fire and lynched several of them in the yard.
Well, the Mississippi Supreme Court upheld the will over the objections of the grandson, who somehow managed to hold on to the land and the new house that had been built to replace the one that was burned in the slave uprising. This is that house that is in such bad repair at Prospect Hill today. But over 300 of the slaves from the plantation did go to Liberia in West Africa, and they didn't just assimilate into the population and fade away.
So then these two cultures certainly clashed. And a lot of that is the root of the civil wars of the 1990s, and that's what Alan Huffman covers in his book, Mississippi and Africa.
The massive marker for Isaac Ross towers over all the rest of the graves in the family plot in the side yard at Prospect Hill Plantation. It was commissioned by the American Colonization Society, the abolition group promoting the freeing of slaves and their transportation to Africa. Isaac Ross was a model for their movement. The marble monument was made in Philadelphia by William Struthers and Sons.
They're very well known, and they made this magnificent monument and shipped it to Rodney, and then they brought it to Prospect Hill from Rodney. But it is now over Isaac Ross's grave and the grave of his wife and the grave of one of his daughters. And other family members are buried out there also, including the little girl who died in the fire, her mother, and also Isaac Ross Wade, the grandson who challenged the will. And according to family legend, because he is, by some family members frowned upon because he challenged his grandfather's will, his headstone is turned in the opposite direction of everyone else's. But
Prospect Hill stayed in the family for many more years, and then for decades went on a decline as other owners were stretched beyond the limitations of time and material to keep up with the deterioration of the place. Until the Archaeological Conservancy bought it about a year ago from the date of this story and has feverishly tried to stabilize the structure and at the same time search for a purchaser who will restore it. And the good news is there is a short list of interested parties willing to do so. But the next year will tell whether the house at Prospect Hill lives or dies, lives retaining as much original material, or dies into a memory and is no more than the words it takes to tell its story. And it's quite a story of family intrigue and priorities and loss and deterioration, a great Faulkner story with a Tennessee Williams twist, and John Grisham thrown in to pull off the case before the Supreme Court. But the only living witness to the story is dying in the woods of Jefferson County as of right now, and the final verdict on the house at Prospect Hill Plantation is not yet known. So, what would a watermelon festival be without plenty of watermelons, which they have plenty of here in Mize, the third Saturday of every July. when the town stops down and pays homage to that southern fruit that is the staple for so many people of summertime snacks. And a lot of contests and games here are centered around watermelons, what with it being a watermelon festival and all. Competitors line up to show their dining prowess by downing as much watermelon as they can at a given time. The winner gets a trophy and, of course, the bragging rights for snagging the #1 spot. And while shoppers these days can find the seedless varieties of watermelons on the supermarket shelf, watermelon seeds are as much a part of the experience as anything else. And over the years, connoisseurs of the finer elements of watermelon eating have entertained themselves with the delicate art of seed spitting. And like any good competition, there are age brackets and goals to beat. Of course, there's style and flair, but what counts in the end is distance. And just like the Watermelon Festival centers around a particular food, we found a Masonic Lodge that centers around a particular set of circumstances. And once a year, they get together to have a dinner to honor the members' spouses. And they have a special food that you'll find out what that is in just a minute. We have the opportunity to find ourselves in beautiful Winston County, Mississippi, home to the Beth Eden Masonic Lodge, chartered in 1856. Beth Eden is the second oldest Masonic building still in use in Mississippi and the only moon lodge in the state. It's called a moon lodge because before the time of electric lights, the Masons met by the phases of the full moon, using its illumination to conduct their nighttime meetings. Every year, on the third Saturday of October, the Masons show their appreciation for the support of their wives in the community by opening their doors for their annual Ladies' Night, a tradition going on now for over 75 years. With the sounds of a bluegrass band in the background, the Masons and their families enjoy a splendid feast of chicken, vegetables, desserts, and the true star of the night, the squirrel stew, stirred, of course, by a boat paddle.
We do clean the stick every year. Not the front.
Just whatever you do, don't ask what's in it.
We can't tell you the recipe. We might have to shoot you.
You wouldn't want to eat it if you want to see it. Well, that's true. It's all possums. Beaver, skunk, possum, alligator, a terrapin, turkey, monkey. It's got a little monkey wolf dog.
He's had roadkill recipes.
There's only a little skunk in it, not much.
Skunks that I've seen come up here.
Yeah. Oh, why didn't you bring them? We had to throw them in.
Although the stew may be the star attraction, folks sure didn't shy away from the desserts section either.
Okay.
Come on, get you some soup, youngin'. Come here, I want you to have some soup.
Though the contents of the stew are questionable, it wasn't enough to keep some from asking for
All right,
seconds.
you got it? Ain't too heavy for you? You got it? All right. Come on, you ready for another? I know you want some more.
The lodge took time to honor Dorothy Sloan, widow of the lodge's oldest member, a 65-year Master Mason. The lodge presented her a widow's pin thanking her for supporting her husband's service to the lodge. And as the moon shines down on the evening's festivities, the families are already looking forward to another 75 years of service. I'm just glad I'm not the one who has to clean that large stew pot. Yes, sirree. Well, besides speed eating and seed spitting, they also have some pretty impressive sized melons that show up here at the Watermelon Festival at Mize every year. This year's big melon weighed in at 67 pounds, and it was raised by a man from the coast who's won this contest several times.
I've been competing for 11 years. I've won 7 out of 11. Those big watermelons you grow by preparing the ground a year ahead of time. Plenty cow manure, plenty black slag, and a whole lot of love and tender care.
To say these folks in Mize take pride in their watermelons is an understatement. But of course, we have a lot of things in Mississippi to be proud of, like the Hindu temple in Brandon. Have you driven by and seen it yet? If you haven't, you need to. It's a work of art unto itself, and that's just on the outside. Hindu temples have been around for thousands of years. Their intricate detail and artistic beauty inspire a sense of awe. Although most modern temples are less elaborate, there are a few scattered across the U.S. that rival their ancient predecessors. Brandon, Mississippi is home to one of these extraordinary temples.
I came from priest family. My forefathers are priests. When I became a priest, I was so excited. Since 1990, I'm working as a priest in this temple. Every day is a fresh day for me. Every day fresh. I'm luckiest man in the world. I won the lottery for this temple as a priest. I was very, very happy. The Hindus are building so many temples in USA. The main reason, the world peace. We like peace.
You can't see it from Old Fannin Road, but in just 2 short blocks, you'll feel as if you've traveled all the way to India. This is truly a special and unique structure.
Especially in the south is a beautiful temple. You won't find nothing like this in closest. Even New Orleans is a bigger city, and we are lucky to have temple here, you know.
Temple is open only hardly 2 years, and a lot of people know about it already. I don't know how they are aware of it. At the same time, I saw a lot of temples getting built, one in North Carolina, one in Colorado, but none of those temples are as big, as magnanimously constructed, as much of artwork that you see here. You cannot see it in those other temples, and it is right here in Jackson.
There are 8,000 families in Mississippi, and 8,000, 10,000 families to support a temple of this is a phenomenal job. It's not New York, it's not Chicago. Chicago has 2-3 temples. It's not even New Orleans. New Orleans has none.
Whenever I see it is not just a religious structure, it is a monument. Pretty soon it is going to be one of the cultural heritages within Mississippi.
The Hindu Temple Society of Mississippi was established in 1986 in order to serve the growing Hindu population of Mississippi. And in the following year, construction started on what is now the meeting hall. In 2010, construction was completed on the temple, and it was open to the public.
This architecture of this temple symbolizes the 4 architectures of India. And all these things are embellished in this temple one way or the other. And whatever you see here is the symbolization of the Indian gods.
This artwork is indicating heritage of India. This science is indicating our Vedas. Veda means holy books. So people can ask, what is this, what is this? We can explain for the signs and symbols. There are so much secrets behind for the symbols.
This 3,500 square foot temple took 5 years to build and cost over $2.5 million. All of the artwork and statues are made with only sand, water, and concrete by a traditional Indian artist called Shilpis. But none of it would have been possible without some very proud and inspired patrons.
It is a divine grace that I am involved into this project. All of us kept a goal together to build it. That's what made it happen. Once we constructing it, I felt this is the message we are giving to our younger generations. Now this is our culture.
Our kids also need to learn our tradition and our religion. So We encouraging our kids to come to the temple first. We give a different program, Sunday classes, gospel singing classes, all types of classes we do in the temple. People go somewhere, they ask you, what is the Hindu religion? Actually, our kids, they do not know. We can teach them. If you go to school, there are a bunch of kids get together. One kid are going to ask the other kid, Hindu kid, what is this temple? I don't know. That's not really good. It's not a good answer. That's why we need to train the people, especially our kids.
I want to bring our culture and keep our culture with my family. I want to teach my kids Hinduism, so I say we have something to come and worship. And I'm proud of being involved in 25 years, and it's a great achievement for me.
This temple for public, anybody want to come and see. So we have so many people surrounding this area. So school people will come, Catholic people will come, and the church people will come, and we give them a tour, They love our Hindu culture. They love our structure. They love our temples. So since beginning, without their support, we can build this temple, That is the evidence that their support, especially our neighbors are very wonderful people. They cooperate with us, and then such a nice people here.
It's not ours alone. It's not a Hindus alone. It is us, Mississippians, and the neighboring states.
In addition to watermelons, there's lots of other things you can have fun with, like, you can try your hand at the games here in the park. SpongeBob. And the kids can see if they have what it takes to ride the bull or scale the wall. And of course, the adults get about as much fun watching the kids try this or that as the kids are having themselves. And there are prizes to be had, games to be played, and generally enough fun that it draws thousands of people every year. And when you get your fill of fun and games at Watermelons, come on over to downtown Mize, Mississippi, where car aficionados from all over the state have a great display of their hot rods and their street rods and their otherwise labors of love that we can all take a look at and admire. And speaking of labors of love, we're going to travel to Greenwood, where one farmer is making sure that restaurants there have really fresh eggs.
I have chickens, egg-laying chickens, meat bird chickens. I have turkeys, heritage turkeys, have quail, ducks, and geese. Hi, I'm Leanne Hines, and I'm the owner and operator of Levy Run Farm in Greenwood, Mississippi. I started the poultry business in 2008. Because I was going to the farmer's market and everyone kept asking for fresh, where are the fresh eggs? So that's why I started in the poultry business. On a small poultry operation, the chickens have more room to actually be a chicken. They get out where they can get exercise stretching their wings. That's the first thing the chicken does when I open the doors in the morning is they all come out and stretch their wings.
I was excited to hear that she was not only going to supply me with the eggs, but she could also process chickens for me as well. You can tell that there's a whole lot of emotion and care taken into the product, which makes my job a lot easier because I don't have to manipulate it nearly as much.
Because of her relationship with the Delta Bistro, Leanne has expanded her operation to offer a wider variety of eggs.
I do have one goose hen who lays, and she lays an egg about like so. Then we go down to the large duck eggs, they're like an extra large chicken egg. And then the smaller duck eggs, the ones that are just beginning to lay, are the pullets. And then you have a chicken egg. I have chicken eggs all the way from extra large down to petite chicken eggs, and then the quail eggs are quite small. She just went in and laid her eggs, so she's come out to let us all know that she's done her job for the day, and now she's free to visit.
It goes back to the whole idea of the community, and especially in the Mississippi Delta where little towns are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's just one thing that we can do to help our neighbors and our friends thrive.
It makes a whole lot more sense for someone to buy eggs that were born here and laid 2 days ago than it is to buy eggs that have been shipped all the way from Pennsylvania.
And unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this show. If you got any questions about anything you've seen, contact us at mpbonline.org/Mississippi Roads or check out our Facebook page. Till next time, I'm Walt Grayson. I'll be seeing you on Mississippi Roads.
Mississippi Roads is made possible in part by the generous support of viewers like you. Thank you.